Talofa lava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Swiswiki. Coming up.
Well, I think that's Mano Kamkamida's political narrative, frankly. I would argue there's far more freedom than ever before.
Fiji's former AG slams Rabuka's administration. Also, Health NZ to slash 22 jobs in Pacific Health. And
Till now, I am very emotional, very sad.
a meeting of a lifetime with Pope Francis. Fiji's coalition government is putting its political survival ahead of the people, the former Attorney General claims. Aya Syed Qayyum said Sitiveni Rabuka's administration is doomed unless it deals with the country's social and economic crisis. Mr. Syed Qayyum hit out after one of Fiji's deputy prime ministers, Mano Kamikamica, said the nation was recovering from a 16-year dictatorship. Mr. Kamikamica also claimed the 2013 constitution was foisted on the people with very little consultation. Mr. Syed Qayyum was widely seen as convicted former Prime Minister Frank Bainimarama's right-hand man for 16 years. Critics have labelled him the architect of the constitution. He told Margot Staunton the Deputy Prime Minister's comments were idiotic and factually false.
We had a constitution that is really a culmination of consultations that were put in place right after the new government was put in place in 2007. We had the National Charter for Building a Better Fiji. We had the People's Charter, widespread consultations. You would have seen in my post how many villages and settlements personnel attended to getting the feedback. In fact, I remember quite clearly NCBBF, some of the civil society groups said that a term of 5 years was too long and that we should follow, for example, the Australian and New Zealand path. And then there's a lot of debate about it. And the 4-year term came up. Under the 2013 Constitution, a government has to serve a term of 3.5 years, but no more than 4 years. So a lot of those issues that have been, in fact, incorporated into the 2013 Constitution have come out from those consultations. And, in fact, if you look at the draft Yashgai Constitution, a lot of the key provisions in that Constitution has also been incorporated in the 2013 Constitution. Then we also had the consultations for the 2013 Constitution. So it is, in fact, quite disingenuous to say that there was no consultation. Let's follow the logic. If he's saying that the reason why we lost the elections in 2022 was because people, rejected the 2013 Constitution, well, they voted overwhelmingly for Bainimarama in 2014. They voted also for Bainimarama and the Fiji First government in 2018. That had nothing to do with the Constitution itself. In fact, has never before have we had a Constitution that provided people to be able to vote on policy-based issues, that never divided people along ethnic lines, because in Fiji previously you had two votes. You voted for your ethnic group and you voted as what we call in the open seats. It got rid of that. One person, one vote, one value. So I think it is, again, misrepresentation by Mano Kamkamica, and I come back to the point. It had, for the first time, an electoral system under this constitution that gave women the greatest representation ever. If you look at the 2014-2018 election results, we had more women both in numbers and as a percentage of parliament than ever before under the previous systems. There's this kind of cliched thing, they were dictators. Well, we weren't dictators. We were actually elected by the people.
First of all, he and many others have claimed that you were the architect of the document. Secondly, that there was a 16-year dictatorship. Now, there was a general election halfway into Bainimarama's administration, wasn't there?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we had elections in 2014. By the way, Deputy Supervisor of Elections was from New Zealand in 2014, 2018, and I understand in 2022 from Australia, from New Zealand. We had the tripartite government of Australia, India, and Indonesia were part of the observer group that was created, and they oversaw the elections.
I think the claims about the 16 years of dictatorship relate to the fact that despite the fact there were general elections, that political opponents were bullied and intimidated, human rights laws were flouted, people felt the country was being run like a dictatorship.
Well, I think that's Mano Kamkamica's political narrative, frankly. I would argue there's far more freedom than ever before. We had people who were talking in social spaces that they weren't ever able to talk about. We had people who talked about the relationship between the chief and the commoners. We had to talk about the relationship between the have and the have-nots. We ratified the 9 international core human rights conventions. No other political party has ever done that. We brought those laws effectively into domestic legislation. So here were people who are able to now respond to these challenges, if you call them human rights challenges, through these conventions that we had actually ratified, which were actually being enforced. They could take us to court. We were taken to court on numerous occasions in various matters, whether it's civil matters, criminal matters, etc. So it's a narrative, a bit like Nazi propaganda. When you keep on saying something repeatedly, people start wanting to believe it.
An ocean conservation non-profit has condemned the US president's latest executive order aimed at fast-tracking deep-sea mining in both the US and international waters. President Donald Trump issued the order entitled Unleashing America's Offshore Critical Minerals and Resources on Thursday. The order states it's the policy of the US to advance United States leadership in seabed mineral development. In a statement, Ocean Conservancy says the executive order is a result of deep-sea mining frontrunner, the Metals Company, requesting US approval for mining in international waters, bypassing the authority of the International Seabed Authority. RNZ Pacific editor Koroi Hawkins spoke with the Conservancy's Vice President of External Affairs, Jeff Waters, and began by asking what the executive order says.
Yeah, so the executive order is basically a managerial directive from the president to do two things. First of all, to direct NOAA, so the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, to use a law that's been on the books since the early 80s to permit and license and basically expedite deep sea mining and deep seabed mining on the high seas. So this is outside of US jurisdiction. The second part directs the Department of Interior to use the laws that are on the books, the Outer Continental Shelf Lands Act, to pursue deep seabed mining within US jurisdiction in the US exclusive economic zone. So you've got two different agencies in the government being directed to facilitate deep sea mining in US waters that US controls and on the high seas that the US does not control.
What is your organization's reaction to this announcement?
Yeah, so we believe that deep sea mining is not something that is helpful for the ocean, for the planet, for the economy, for anybody. The last thing that the ocean needs right now is a brand new extractive global industry on the high seas. And so this is not something that we think is in anyone's interest and is certainly not going to lead to good things for the health of the ocean. We're particularly interested and concerned about the directive for NOAA, which is the agency that does conservation and stewardship of our ocean resources, as well as climate research and weather forecasting. The directive to push NOAA to expedite and facilitate deep sea mining, it's anathema to the agency's mission. I mean, NOAA exists to take care of the ocean and to steward the resources on behalf of the United States, the American people, and the world. And so the notion that the agency would be directed to start a brand new era of exploitation on the high seas is something that we fundamentally disagree with.
What do you know of how this has come about in terms of, we know that the US is not party to the International Seabed Authority that's trying to develop legislation and regulations in this front, and we know that the metals company, the Canadian miner, has been looking for ways to expedite mining in the Pacific, for example. What's your understanding of what went on prior to this announcement?
Yeah, so I would point to the history behind the law that's allowing all of this to happen, right? So the United States has not ratified the Law of the Sea Treaty, but back when it was a live issue, when it was first being signed and ratified by countries all around the world, the US Congress passed and enacted a law called the Deep Seabed Hard Minerals Resources Act. So it's explicit in the law that this law was meant to be a temporary measure that would be in place on an interim basis while we awaited Senate ratification of the Law of the Sea Treaty. And so it's still on the books, and we're still awaiting ratification of the Law of the Sea Treaty, which we have never done. So this is sort of a temporary measure that has basically created a kind of a loophole in US law that gives an agency an authority to do something that is kind of contrary to what all international law kind of says, because the US is not currently ratified the Law of the Sea Treaty.
What happens now in terms of real world impacts of this executive order?
Yeah, so NOAA will basically have to come up with a plan to expedite a process for permitting and licensing within 60 days. So we'll see NOAA take some sort of action within the next 60 days to set up a process and a system. The metals company or any other company that's interested in pursuing permits for mining in international waters will have to go through that process, but they'll also have to comply with other laws that are pretty explicit within the Deep Seabed Hard Minerals Resources Act. So they don't just get a free pass on complying with other laws that have to do with maritime requirements, vessels, the Clean Water Act, things of that nature. So it's not like they get an immediate blank check and they can start drilling tomorrow or mining tomorrow. They're going to have to go through a lengthy process, and there will be challenges. There will be people who will stand up and say no and oppose any of these actions. So hopefully nothing will happen in terms of dramatic impacts on ocean health anytime soon. That's obviously something that we don't want to see happen. But they're certainly making a go at it, and we'll see if they succeed.
After a legal settlement with the Public Service Association, Health NZ will now be cutting 22 jobs in Pacific Health rather than 50. Kaya Selby spoke to PSA National Secretary Fleur Fitzsimmons about what this means going forward.
There will be jobs saved in the Pacific Directorate as a result of the litigation settlement. There will be 22 roles that will go in Pacific Health, but we're very hopeful that those people can be retained within Health New Zealand because they have important skills and more to give.
What roles do they fill specifically? Like what kind of functions do they do? What initiatives? Is there much you can say about that?
There will be people who work on regional partnerships and critical administration roles within the Pacific Directorate will now keep their jobs, but we will still lose expertise within the Pacific Directorate that will have a direct impact on Pacific health outcomes, and that is disappointing and concerning.
So what, as an overview, what do next steps look like in the process?
The next steps will be a case-by-case approach to the individual workers within the Pacific Health Directorate. They will be encouraged to apply for roles that suit their skills and experience, and we're hopeful that many, many people will be retained within Health New Zealand as a result of the settlement. There will be jobs saved in the Pacific Health Directorate because of the litigation settlement. That's good news, but we've still lost too many health workers as a result of these changes.
The news of Pope Francis's death has seen thousands flocking into St. Peter's Basilica this week, where people have lined up for hours to pay their final respects to the late pontiff, who has been lying in state since Wednesday. His funeral on Saturday is expected to draw hundreds of thousands at Vatican City, and many world leaders will be in attendance. One person who recalls fond memories of Pope Francis is Sister Susana Vaifale, who lives in Rome and has worked in the Vatican. I spoke with Sister Vaifale and began by asking her how long she's lived in Italy.
I'm Sister Susana from Samoa, a village of Somalaulu. And it's been, I can say that more than 10 years I'm here in Italy, so I also speak Italian fluently. And it's a very nice experience, and I had the opportunity and the possibility to meet with people from all over the world when I was working there in these 5 years. I also had the opportunity to meet with specific people from New Zealand, from Australia, from Samoa, all over the world, even Americans, and
Did you ever meet with the late Pope Francis, and what was he like?
Yeah, I have a great opportunity to meet with him during the adlimment of the bishops from Papua New Guinea and the Solomon in the Vatican. So I accompanied him, and then I had that possibility to greet with him, and it's a very I can tell that he had that humility in himself, and he is for everyone. He's not that, he's always there. That's my experience in that time in 2022. I met with him, and till now I have it with me, that experience. Very emotional, very, he's like a father, a brother, a counselor. He is everything. I mean, I am happy and thank God that I had that possibility to meet him.
Did you get to talk to him? And if you did, what did he say to you?
It's different when you were, a bit distance with him, like in audiences. I've seen him from that long distance. But when I go there, when I met with him, it's very, when you think of when I meet him, I will say a lot of things came to my mind or my heart to say. But when I was there in front of him, it's like it's all blur. I couldn't say anything. So in that day, I only present myself as, humble person in front of him. And I said to myself, thank God that I am, that humble person from that faraway country, and I had this possibility to meet with him. And I was thinking of my people in Samoa, that they don't have this opportunity. But me, I said, oh, my humble person, I have this possibility. So in my heart, I brought everyone. I mean, my country, my people, and myself. So in that time, I only, I was just looking at him, and I said, my goodness, I'm here. I'm in front of the Pope Francis, the leader of the Catholic Church. So, yeah. I couldn't say anything, but the porter, the one who was carrying the Pope's wheelchair, he was there, and then he was the one presenting, saying in Italian to the Pope, Sister is working at the St. Peter parish office in the Vatican. So he was just looking at me as, that's my experience till now. I have it with me.
What's the mood like in Vatican City at the moment?
Oh, in the Vatican, there are a lot of people. When they heard the news that he passed, everyone, they all came in front of the square and praying, and very emotional.
How did you react to the news of his death?
Oh, I cried.
Yeah.
I cried. I was, till now I am very emotional, very sad, because I felt it on Sunday. I was there. I heard him saying Happy Easter, and from there I felt that something, he will leave us. And then on that day, Easter Sunday, when he went on, around the square, he came down after the blessing. He came down to greet the sea people. Then I've seen the cars and all the police, the Vatican policemen. They all came towards, where he should meet the sea people. And then when he went there, he greeted the sea people, and then I think he chose to go around the square. When he arrived there at the Via Conciliazione, that's where I knew that I'm sure Pope will leave us soon. I was on the train, and they communicated the news. He passed at 7:30. But yeah, it's very. I felt so sad, and till now I am very sad. But in a way, God, like what we say in Samoa, maliu se toa, ai te tulai se toa. So all in God's hands.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā soifua.